everybody. This is Joanna Franklin, international homeopath, and today, as promised, I have the amazing Cosmic Queen. Why? Because it's almost time for the solar eclipse, and there has been so much hype around it, which is partly justified because it is an amazing event. It's fascinating. It is, I think, going to change things on the collective level, on the personal level. But at the same time, I have also been seeing some crazy stuff on social media about this. They call it, some people call it the Great American Eclipse, because it's going to go through Texas, from Texas up to North America. So this is the area where people are going to see it visibly the most, but that doesn't mean that the whole world is not going to be affected by it. We're all going to be affected by it. But some reactions have been, I would think, a little bit extreme. I'm getting, dark ages, end of the world kind of vibes in some quarters. And so I thought, let's bring some, common sense and knowledge. And this is why Cosmic Queen is here. And what can we do as well? How is this going to affect our health from my perspective? What can we do to help ourselves and basically to evolve? Because this is another step in the ladder of evolution, personal evolution, collective evolution. Everything is evolving, is changing, and let's make the most of it. So thank you, Cosmic Queen. You have the floor. So what's going on?
All right, so we have a new moon in Aries and it is a total eclipse. And with eclipse energy, it is always, quite intense, but it really depends on where it's hitting in our chart in terms of what impact it's going to have on us. Because if it's not really hitting on our chart, we might be okay, but it might be everybody around us that's not okay. So it really depends on what's going on in our chart. But to put it in perspective, we also need to understand that Mercury is retrograde at the moment. So how we would normally work with Aries energy, we can't work with it in the same way. But because it's an eclipse and it is conjunct Chiron, this is where a lot of panic is coming in as well, because they don't understand how to work with Chiron energy. So Chiron is about our biggest wound, and it's the wound that we're born with. And it can be a wound that we can have awareness, and we can not have awareness of it. And if we don't have awareness of this wound, it can actually form part of our identity. And it's really quite interesting, because I've been reading the work of Dov Baron recently, who's a leadership guru in the US, and he talks about, wound as our identity, uses, different terms. But he talks about it, how it then informs, our choices, it informs our values, what we stand for, and it can start to become part of us without us actually realizing that this is a wound that we're born with, and we have choices. And that's the thing with this new moon. If it's hitting on our chart, particularly for people who have Chiron in Aries, this can bring things up. It can definitely bring things up, because the wound in Aries represents I am. So this is a very personal wound. And again, it depends what house it's expressed through in your chart. But the wound of, Chiron in Aries, it's all about our identity. It's about us not feeling that we can step into our leadership, that we can't do what we want. We can't, whatever we're passionate about, we can't pursue it. And how that impacts us is that we don't have the confidence. We might feel like there's issues with, do we feel like we're worthy of being able to pursue these things that we want to pursue? And they might be these things that are deep inside that we've always wanted to do, but it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't step into that. I'm not worthy of that. And so with this wound, it can become really quite repressed. And when we get our Chiron return, which is normally between the ages of 49 and 51, if we haven't identified this wound and we haven't worked with it, our Chiron return is horrendous. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's horrendous, because this wound comes up and it comes up to be acknowledged and for us to work through it. If we choose not to work through it, you know, circumstances can become quite difficult. On the flip side, if we choose to work with this wound and acknowledge the wound, we work through it and we realize, you know what? This is a story I made up. Is this even real? Like, a lot of it's not even real, but it's beliefs that we take on, you know, when we're younger, and they get stronger and stronger, you know, as we grow up and it becomes part of our identity. But we can make that choice whether we're going to identify as that wound or we're not. And, you know, with the wound of Chiron in Aries, it's like they feel they lack something, can't go after what they want. They definitely can't take risks. If you look at Aries energy, it's assertive, it's bold, it's confident, you know, it's people stepping into their leadership, and they have this ability to motivate people. People want to follow them, people want to take their lead because they've got the charisma, the leadership, and they're not afraid to take risks. They step into their entrepreneurial side, and they're amazing at thinking up ideas, but they take action, because Aries energy is all about, you know, action and getting things done. But if your wound, you know, from Chiron is in Aries, you're the exact opposite. You're not taking action, you're not being assertive. So it's about having that awareness of what's going on. And if you choose to work with that and go, you know what, I'm not going to let these things hold me back anymore. This is a story from when I was 5 years old. This is ridiculous. The thing with Chiron, and this is what a lot of people don't realize with Chiron, is there's a gift with Chiron. When we choose to work with that wound and go, you know what, I'm going to go after what I want. I've been passionate about X, Y, and Z for my whole entire life, and I've never pursued it, but I'm going to. It's really quite interesting what happens with Chiron. And this is from a lot of my own research, and it's anecdotal, you know, research, working with people, doing their charts over a number of years and identifying people's wounds and encouraging people to work through it. You know, Chiron can be a lot like Jupiter. When we choose to work with it, it becomes a gift. So when we get a Chiron transit, things can turn around, and things can turn around quite unexpectedly. And it's like magical things sort of line up for us. I know it sounds really airy-fairy and like, oh God, you know, who brought the unicorn into the room? But that's the thing with Chiron. We dig deep. It's like we get rewarded. And Saturn works in a similar way. When we understand our Saturn lessons, we understand our limitations, and we work with those limitations. So we work with it. So whether we have to do additional training, whether we have to, you know, whatever it is that we have to do, we work with that Saturn issue. It's the same with Saturn. We get a Saturn transit and Saturn rewards us. But it's the same with Chiron, but it tends to be more profound. And what I've found with people is that when they don't take on that Chiron wound, there's a way that there's a gift in Chiron that's incorporated into our work and incorporated into our career somehow. And when we take that on, things just seem to flow and line up. So people experiencing, you know, all sorts of, you know, things during this eclipse is because the eclipse is hitting on Chiron, and it's hitting on something in their chart, and it's a sore point. It's a sore point, it's a wound, and it's like the band-aid's being ripped off and you have to deal with it. And really it depends on, you know, everybody's personality is quite different. Some people are like, yes, so let's rip this wound off and let's deal with it. Whereas other people just don't have the confidence, or there's all this fear, and they avoid it. And that just makes things worse. You know, Chiron comes up to be acknowledged, excuse me, sorry, and to be worked with. And so that's why this eclipse is intense, because it's like it's ripping the band-aid off. And again, it depends on, you know, where it's hitting in your chart, but that band-aid's being ripped off, and we need to work through whatever the Chiron issue is for us. And it can be quite amazing, the end result of that, because it can affect our identity. You know, we can reframe things and get this new sort of renewed sense of identity, particularly if we allow our passions to come through that we've, you know, stopped ourselves you know, from pursuing previously, it can actually be invigorating. It can be exciting. Sorry, there's an insect. You might see my cat in a minute. She's just jumped on the table. She's flipping around everywhere trying to get this insect.
Yeah.
The end result can be really powerful, but it's what it brings up for people. And this is where it's going to be interesting to hear what you have to say about how, you know, people can work through this with your help.
So Chiron is super fascinating to me because it's like the archetype of the therapist, of the healer, of the homeopath, okay, in my case, because it is the wounded healer.
Yes.
Literally, and all therapists are there to heal themselves through healing others. So that's perfect. People with Chiron in Aries, does that go by year? Because I think it's like people born between what, 1960 something and 1970.
So the 1st of April 1968 to the 18th of October 1968. And remembering Chiron moves forward, retrogrades move forward. And then from the 30th of January 1969 to the 28th of May 1976. And then the 13th of October 1976 to the 28th of March 1977. So, you know, there's a good, you know, almost 10-year span there.
Yeah, so there will be a good chunk of the audience with I know I have Chiron in Aries in my 5th house. And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, there are lots of websites like Cafe Astrology or other free websites where you can pull down your birth chart and you can pinpoint where your Chiron is.
Yes.
And just for a quick, I mean, obviously this cannot be a personalized thing, but in general, because I know that houses can be a bit confusing.
Yes.
I am learning now what houses are, what they represent. So I kind of know that the 5th house is about children, it's about creativity, it's about fun. And so I'm guessing with my Chiron in Aries, I need to have more fun. But in general, if you could go through the different houses with Chiron, what could highlight, what could Chiron highlight in each particular house?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chiron in the 1st house is Aries energy. So it's much more straightforward. So it's everything that I've just, you know, spoken about. And it's about, you know, what do you want? What is it that you want? And it's really pursuing that if it's in the 1st house and stepping into that. If it's in the 2nd house is represented by Taurus, and the 2nd house is the money house. And it's also about, you know, our values as well. So it might be that you feel restricted, that you can't go after what you want because maybe the way you were raised, there was, you know, shortage of money. There was focus on security, or the focus was on that you need to get a really well-paid job. You can't go doing what you want. So maybe you wanted to be really creative, but you couldn't pursue that because the way you were raised was you have to get a good job, earn money, security is more important than, you know, pursuing your passions and going after what you want. So this is, you know, other people's values that have been instilled, you know, onto you. Through the 3rd house, which is Gemini energy. And this is all about, you know, communication. So it could be that you felt like you couldn't go after what you want, couldn't pursue what you want because maybe you didn't get the education that you wanted. Maybe you know, had to leave school early and, you know, get a job and you couldn't go and study, or maybe you had some sort of learning disability that prevented you, you know, from studying or doing what you were wanting to do. So there was some sort of issue there. The 4th house, which is Cancer energy, again, it's that issue of security and family. So, you know, maybe it was you couldn't go after and do what you really wanted to do and step into your leadership. Maybe you had to work in the family business. Maybe you had to look after, maybe you had a big family, had to look after all the children. And all of those family concerns, you know, were a priority. Or the priority was security. Because again, there might not have been enough money, within the family. And so that focus was on security and making sure that you felt secure. The fifth house, which is Leo energy, as you mentioned, it's about children, it's about creativity, it's about love, but it's also about, allowing ourselves to shine, and be a role model. And so Chiron and Aries through the fifth can be, not feeling like we're able to express ourselves the way we want to express ourselves. And that can be, through our relationships, through our creativity. Maybe, we're not confident getting that platform set up to promote the work that we do, because Leo energy really is about being a role model and leading by example. So maybe not comfortable having the spotlight, being shone, on you, or maybe not comfortable, within relationships, maybe, allowing, yourselves to open your heart up to a relationship could be an issue there as well. Through the sixth house, which is Virgo energy, Chiron and Aries through the sixth house, it's a double whammy with work. You could feel like you can't pursue, the career and the job that you want to pursue. And it could be because there's health issues, because Virgo represents, health as well as work. So there might have been health issues that you had growing up, or health issues in the family. So you had to go and, get a job to support the family, or you couldn't get the sort of job that you wanted because health issues were, restricting you. So that's it. It's a double whammy there with Virgo in the seventh house. So Aries through the seventh, and seventh is Libra energy, and it's all about relationships as well, and it's all about balance. So maybe you felt like you couldn't, step into your leadership because your partner took priority. So, the focus was on your partner, or the focus was on somebody else, and you sort of had to step back, in some way. There's something is out of balance there, within relationships. Or there could have been some sort of issues of justice or fairness. Maybe something happened when you were younger, that prevented you from going after what you want. And it could have been a legal issue. It could have been an issue of, justice in some way. But it's that Libra energy of, the scale, which way is it is it going? Is it going in your favor or not? But it really is that balance between what I want and what other people want. And normally with that wound, it's other people are taking priority, and you have to take a back step. The eighth house, which is Scorpio energy, there can be a really deep wound there. And it can be that you weren't able to pursue what you wanted to do because there could have been some sort of abuse, within the family. There might have been a domestic violence situation in the family, or, maybe there was some fear around, a parent or both parents. But it's a very, very deep wound that is sort of buried, quite deep. And that could be related to money as well, because the eighth house is about other people's money. So it could be that you were reliant on other people, which meant you couldn't go after what you want. So there was a definite power imbalance there, if it's, Aries through the eighth house. For the ninth house, which is Sagittarius, and Sagittarius energy, it's about, higher learning. So it could be you couldn't do what you wanted to do, because again, you didn't have access to education. And sometimes that can be because you're the female in the family, or, whatever that family dynamic is. But yeah, Sagittarius energy, it's about higher learning, it's about vision, it's about purpose. And maybe for some reason you don't feel like you're worthy of stepping into, the purpose that, that you would actually really, really love to pursue. So there's self-esteem issues there. There's, am I worthy enough to step into this vision that I want to create, for myself? And so again, it's like holding yourself back. And, Sagittarius energy as well, often create success from moving overseas. And some people can feel this, that I need to move away in order to create success, but they don't follow that guidance, and they don't allow themselves to do it, and they don't move beyond, you know, maybe where they grew up, which means again they're limiting, you know, their opportunities. The 10th house, which is Capricorn, it's all about career. So again, it's another thing to do with career, but with Capricorn energy, it can feel like you can't go after what you want and do what you want because you're not smart enough. You know, and it could be that you're not smart enough because you didn't have the education that you wanted, or it could be that you know, criticize yourself, you know, so intensely that you put so much pressure on yourself that you can't live up to the expectations that you've set for yourself. And so you hold yourself back and hold yourself back and hold yourself back and don't feel like you can go after what you want because you're not smart enough, you don't have the qualifications. And yeah, there's a real lack of confidence there. So that's the 10th house. 11th house, which is, you know, Aquarius energy. It can be that, again, you're not going after what you want and pursuing, you know, your passions. And with Aquarius energy, it's like Aquarius energy has got that, you know, humanitarian, you know, aspect to it. It's a fixed sign. And it's got very strong opinions, but it's like something's blocked there and you're not following your own guidance. You're not following, you know, what you're passionate about, and you want to help people, and there's part of you that really wants to help people, and that can often be through, you know, alternative, you know, healing, because Aquarius energy, so many people that are Aquarius, you know, are healers in some way, but they don't allow themselves to express that energy. So they know that they've got some capabilities there, they know that they can do it, but again, it's that fear of stepping into it, because the Aquarius part of them, you know, wants to do something, you know, different to help people. But then again, if it's repressed, it's like, oh, I don't want to stand out. I don't want to stand out. I don't want to look like I'm rebelling against the system. I'm just going to conform. So they don't allow that energy to be expressed. And lastly, the 12th house, you know, Pisces energy. So if it's Chiron in Aries expressed through the 12th house, Pisces energy is really creative, but again, it's also very in tune and very psychic energy as well. And it can be quite a hidden, repressed wound expressed through Pisces, because the 12th house is like the hidden house. So it can feel like they're always on the back foot, and they don't know what's wrong, and they feel like there's always something going against them, but they don't understand what that is. And it's like they're always seeking something, but they can never find it. So it's like their Achilles heel, that they're always looking for that something that's holding them back. But they'll never quite get their head around, you know, what it is. And so it's about accepting their creative gifts, accepting their intuitive gifts, and just following their intuitive guidance, because that's going to get them on the right path. And the thing with, you know, Chiron is when you understand the house that it's expressed through, that's where the gift comes in, because it's using the energy of that house and expressing that energy of that house and pursuing that. And that's the gift that comes with Chiron.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And from my perspective, and actually from both the astrology and homeopathy perspective, this is a new moon. And so it's about new beginning. But because there is also an eclipse involved, this is like a new moon on steroids. So it's about new big flashing lights, new. So and this is really, once we hit the equinox, the spring equinox, this is the real start, the new year, the real new year. And I've been thinking that we've been conditioned to think that the new year starts on the 1st of January, and we're all caught up and we're all doing New Year resolutions, and we set ourselves up for failure because it's still the dead of winter. It's still really we should be hibernating, we should be resting, and instead we hype ourselves, we psych ourselves up, we try, but then we wake up on the 1st of January and it's still dark and we're still tired. Whereas this is the time where everything starts all over again, and this is the time to start the year and to set new intentions and new plans and do something new, and particularly with this eclipse, because we're going to feel this for like years. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Eclipse energy, particularly, depending on where it's hitting on in our chart, it can impact us for a few years.
Yeah, so really, let's be mindful. That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because let's really think about what we are putting out there in terms of our thoughts, our hopes, our plans. And let's start with, for example, our body. And so this is the best time to start a detox. Let's do spring cleaning all around, including ourselves. So I started to put out my parasite detox, and I've been doing this since the last full moon on the 25th of March. And let's do this, because most of us have got parasites, and this is anecdotal again, as you were saying earlier on, but I've seen this. I was not aware of this, because everybody talks about heavy metals and gluten and sugar. Yes, but parasites, I'm telling you, when I do the bioscans, parasites, we all have them to some degree. And it's important to get rid of them, because that can cause all sorts of mischief, and that can look like all sorts of other things. So even to the point of fatigue or mood swings, or not being able to sleep, or grinding your teeth at night. Of course, the obvious symptoms, the stomach bloating, and digestion issues, and all sorts of other things. But let's start from there. So let's cleanse. And then after the 6 weeks, and it's a homeopathic detox, so it's super gentle, but let's do this. And then after that, let's see how we are. I've got lots of people doing it with me right now, and the skin gets better, and you get brighter, and you get more energy, and there's lots of good things coming out of this. So once we get all the cobwebs and all the rubbish out of our system, we can start looking around and seeing things. Okay, so what am I going to do now? Do something outside your comfort zone. Do something that you have not done before. And I'm not talking about paragliding or jumping from a plane. Something that is good for you, that suits you, even if it's small. I don't know, try a new dish, a new type of food that you haven't tried. I'm not an adventurous person by any stretch of the imagination. I am almost ashamed to say I've never been camping in my life. Okay, but I'm going to a retreat in the west of Scotland next week, and it's a holistic retreat. I'm going to talk about flower remedies and all that there, but we're going to be camping because it's a holistic nature thing, and the weather is going to be awful, because why not? We're in Scotland, and it's just going to be rainy and freezing. But I'm going to go there, and I even signed up to go canoeing. And and my husband can't stop laughing about it, because he just wants to see the pictures and laugh. But this is my out of the comfort zone. This is, believe me, that's way out of my comfort zone. But I'm going to do it. I want to see what it's like. And yeah, every time we do something new, our brain rearranges itself. We create new pathways, new synapses. The brain is amazing. The brain stores everything in. You will remember it, and you will learn something else. And it's not just about the new thing that you're doing, but it's about everything else, the attitude around the new thing. And so just expanding your horizon. And I love this Aries energy because it's, again, it's like with the new season, spring, everything is new, is vital, and it's let's go. And it's very simple. There's no, so I'm a Libra, so I'm always like, okay, shall I not? Or what if? I don't know. No, Aries is like, let's go. Just don't even think about it. Very super simple, easy. Just either do it or don't, but do it. So it's an amazing time. So I think this is a fabulous opportunity, wherever your Chiron is, to work on it, but also to do something better. And by the end of that process, wherever that will be, you'll be a different person, and hopefully a better person, because this is always my goal. I need to improve. I need to do better. I need to be better. Whatever I'm trying to do, I'm trying to do it better, or to know more about it. So we all have this amazing opportunity, and yeah, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with Cosmic Queen and share, because there's been so much negativity. I mean, really, like, it feels almost like at the end of the 11th century, just before the, I don't know, no, at the end of the 10th century, just before the year 1000, and everybody thought that the world was going to end. And there's a little bit of hysteria. And yes, I know there's other planets, and maybe Cosmic Queen, you can tell us about, because yeah, there is a bit of, Mars being a bit mischievous, and there's Uranus, and there's things popping off in the world. There's a lot of activity, but we can see it in two ways. We can see it like, oh my gosh, I don't want to leave my house because I'm scared, kind of vibe. Or we can see it like, yes, there is reaction. It's like, you have to rebuild your kitchen. Before you get the new shiny kitchen, you're going to have to demolish the old one, and that's not going to be pretty. And so we are in the demolition phase. And so we see the rubble, and it can be, yeah, not great, but keep the vision, keep the eyes on the prize, which is the shiny new kitchen. Is that, how do you see that, Cosmic Queen?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way of describing it, because it isn't like we're in the middle of a demolition, at the moment. But it's all internal and it's very personal. And the thing is, when we work through it, particularly over the next week, it might not be easy, because right after the new moon eclipse, we've got Mars hooking up with Saturn in a not so nice sort of aspect. So it can be, feel like one step forward, 10 steps back. There's all these restrictions around us. But once we get through that, and we're also Mercury retrograde, so that slows things right down. And so the trick is just working with that energy, not trying to jump ahead and and kick 10 goals, because it's Mercury retrograde. So it's about working through it, taking our time, getting the perspective that we need to get on it, like really tuning in and getting the answers, because we can come up with some fabulous new ideas with Mercury retrograde in terms of how we can creatively work through this, or how we can add an extra dimension to our business, or bring a new strategy in. What's our new strategy? Because Aries energy is very much about strategy, and it's being really, really strategic. So how can we use this Aries energy to rewrite our strategy? It can be our personal strategy, it can be our business strategy, but how can we do things differently? Because once we get through this and we get through Mercury retrograde, later on in the month, we have, the most phenomenal energies coming together with Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus. And that can create so many phenomenal opportunities for people, because it's very, very, very lucky energy. But it depends if we're open to it or not. And if we start stepping into you know, this new role that we want to create for us, if we, you know, get rid of our old outdated identity that, you know, that we've created around this wound, and we step outside of that wound and go, okay, hello world, I'm ready for something new and fabulous. And we step into that and we start actively creating, who knows what's possible? Because the transits coming up with, you know, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus are phenomenal. Like, they're really, really phenomenal. And, you know, it's the first half of this year that is the best time to get anything started. So once we get through Mercury retro, it's like full steam ahead. Let's get started. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to do that internal work to work on, okay, what is, if something's coming up for me during this new moon, what is it? And not being afraid. And it's really interesting because I've had this crazy busy week. So this morning I'm like, I've got to put the post up. Madly, you know, getting it written and putting it on Facebook. And it's amazing how many people have responded, as well as sending me messages.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, but loads of messages coming through from people as well saying, oh, this has hit me really hard and my wounds have come up. But you know what? I'm sitting with it. I'm working with it. One beautiful lady said, you know, in the comments, you know, that she just cried and cried and cried and cried and she got it all out, which is fantastic, because she sat with it and she's allowed it to come through. Because when you would allow it to come through, so whether it's grief, you know, and it normally is some sort of, you know, deep, you know, grief or trauma that's coming up, allow that to come through, we can then see the possibilities. But if we're holding on so tightly and we're not allowing ourselves to process it, we can't see what can come out of this. So I'm like, I'm just so proud of all these really brave people that are working with these energies and letting them come out, because what can come next can be quite magical, really magical for people.
Yeah, that's really important. The emotional, the trauma, and just like, again, Chiron, beautiful metaphor. We're all wounded. We all carry a wound, and we all carry trauma to a certain extent. I mean, being born is the first trauma. In fact, not even the first, because we can feel things in the womb. But anyway, just to say that we all carry a degree of trauma. And if things are coming up for you, and I hear a lot of people finding it hard to sleep around this time, and even people who never had issues with insomnia, and things are really bubbling under the surface. And if you feel that there is something unresolved, natural muriaticum is one of the best remedies for that, to kind of help you break the ice, because we all to some extent have this facade that we create, this veneer of, and you can think about it, natural muriaticum is sodium chloride, so it's table salt, is literally salt, and you can think about it as the salt, the crust of salt, but underneath that there is water running, and very often the more you need natural muriaticum, the deeper the waters are underneath. So if you need something to help you out and break, natural muriaticum is the first thing. And then to help you work with, once the dam is broken, and people like your follower crying and crying, because once the natural muriaticum has done its job, that's it. You can't stop crying for a long time. But to help you with that process, you can have Ignatia, or you can take flower essences like Star of Bethlehem. Star of Bethlehem is a beautiful back flower remedies, one of the flower remedies that helps you with even historical trauma, even ancestral trauma. Just take, and it's so simple and it's so gentle, and it's literally, you know, these back flower essences that come in drops, and you can take a few drops a day in water. And because they're flower remedies, and this is what I'm going to show on the workshop during this retreat, because it's something that people can learn. And once you learn, there's only 38 flower essences, and once you have learned how they work, you can use them by yourself. You don't need a homeopath or a therapist, because they are so gentle. They're even more gentle than homeopathic remedies. You don't need to worry about aggravations or how many times can I take it, as often as you, for as long as you need. And they're so useful. And if you have this thing that you cannot switch off at night, another flower essence that is amazing for that is white chestnut. And that's just to quiet the chatter in your mind and the things that, you know, you go to sleep or you wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh, yesterday I should have done this, or I should have said that, or tomorrow I've got this list of things, and quiet chatter, white chestnut before going to bed. Absolutely fabulous. It really works wonders. So we can work with nature, with these forces, because I have the feeling that the earth is changing. There's so many. I mean, yesterday was there was an earthquake in New Jersey. I was like, whoa, what that? And I see volcanoes around the world just popping off one after the other. There was one in Mexico at the end of March that I can't pronounce, and the Etna in Sicily was also going, you know, fireworks and, you know, lava spewing and everything. So it's like the earth is waking up, or it's trying to shake something off. So there is change all around. So we need to know, we need the knowledge, we need to look at the map of the astrology, and then we can ride these kind of waves and, you know, like really get the good wave and get on it like a surfer. I'm not a surfer, but yeah, that kind of picture, you know, you don't crush into the wave, you don't get, you know, overwhelmed by the way, you ride the wave, and it can help you get, you know, higher. So yeah,
that's a really good point. If people are really being impacted by Chiron in Aries and they're holding back, so they're not riding the wave, they're not going after what they want, there's fear there that's stopping them from going after what they want, what would you recommend they take?
well, it depends. What's the reason? Is that fear?
Yeah.
Is that are you being triggered? Because this I think, because it's a cycle, and I think astrology is about cycles, and so this particular cycle can trigger you in the sense that you can get maybe flashbacks, memories from your
Yes.
childhood, perhaps, and that can give you a reaction. And if you trigger, and if you retreat within yourself, then I would say things like calcarea carbonica, which is literally, because I'm thinking about retreating, you know, like a mollusk
Yeah.
scale, and you go inside your shell and you close the shell tight shut. And that's what calcarb is. Calcarb is literally the oyster shell. Okay, so it's this fellow here, and it's made from the calcium carbonate that makes up the shell. But at the same time, it also has the energy of the mollusk that lives in it. And so there is this fear. Let's stay in the house. Let's, oh my gosh, expect the worst, the worst outcome. The world is going to end. What's happening? Why is everything crashing around me, etc.? So, yes, get some strength. It's about strength. It's a really beautiful metaphor. That's why I think that homeopathy and astrology work together, because it's about the universe speaks through symbology and metaphors. And this is what astrology is, and this is what homeopathy is to some extent, because it's the metaphor of the shell, the protection. I need protection. I need to stay in. I don't want to get out. The world outside is threatening. And I'm not strong enough. I'm a mollusk. I haven't got bones. I don't have a skeleton. I cannot stand up for myself. And what is calcium carbonate? And we need calcium carbonate for what? For our bones, for our skeletal system. So you see how it's all it's all connected, and we need it, sure, for physical reasons, but it's also the, the psychology, it's the mental, the spiritual. We need to strengthen, to get stronger, to get a backbone. That's what we say. You need to grow a backbone. Yes, exactly. So this is what this is how the symbology, the metaphors work, but they are real. They're not just images and tales. They actually work in real life. So yes, Calcarb. Calcarb is a very, very scared little creature. I am a Calcarb, I'm sure. Calcarb has been really good to me because, again, like I said, I'm not an adventurous person. I like to stay. I don't go out much. I'm pretty content in my little world, in my bubble, in my shell, and but we need strength. We need to be brave. We need to face up to things. So yeah, absolutely.
That is a great recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, and so I saw this morning that you're doing a hot minute Chiron reading.
I am, because at the moment I'm getting so many people coming through for readings, and it's always Chiron issues. And I thought, with this new moon in Aries, featuring Chiron, people but they want to know what's going on with my Chiron, particularly if they feel like it's hitting on something for them. So I had this moment of inspiration going, let's do a hot minute Chiron reading, where I'm not looking at your whole chart. I'm just looking at what's going on for your Chiron. So what is your Chiron wound? Is it aspecting any other planets? And in particular, is this new moon hitting on Chiron in your chart? And if so, I'll talk about that. So it's just a very quick reading to look at Chiron, so that if there is something going on for you, this will hopefully help, give you some answers and make some sense.
Fantastic. Okay, and I'm sure everybody knows where you are. You're Cosmic Queen on Facebook. Do you have a website, by the way? I never asked you.
I do. So it's www.cosmicqueen.me. M-E. Yes.
All right. Okay. Because I always contact you on Facebook. I always read your Facebook posts, and they're fabulous. And and if you want to get on board with Parasite Detox, contact me. I'm on Homeopathy Heals on Facebook, and I am on Homeopathy Heal without the s.co.uk. That's my website. And is there anything else that we should be looking out for in terms of what else is going on with the planet?
I think that's probably enough.
That's everything. Yeah, no, that's quite a lot. Yeah, yeah.
With the eclipse and Mercury retrograde, and then we've got Mars, Saturn after that. I think it's a lot for us to get our head around, but knowing that if we work through it, there's some potentially phenomenal opportunities coming up later this month with Jupiter, Uranus in Taurus. So there's a silver lining there. Definitely a silver lining. Yes.
That's brilliant. Okay, so somebody Aries moon, 10th house. Oh, wow, Chiron in Aries in 10th house. I am right in the way. Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely you are.
Oh my goodness. Is there any questions for Cosmic Queen or any comments, if anybody has any?
Yeah.
Could I just ask, this has been fascinating, thanks. I have a belief system, and maybe it's completely wrong, but I'd just be interested. I was born, so I've got my Chiron's in Pisces, my sun is in Pisces, and my moon is in Scorpio, and I have something like 11 planets in water, but so a lot going on. But I was, apparently, when I was born in a Mercury retrograde. Things seem to work better for me.
Yes.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because I don't seem to understand it or get it whenever, and I'm like, what's the big deal? Because I'm like, I'm actually normal. Better than.
Yeah, you feel normal. So when Mercury is retrograde, because you were born under that influence, it's like, oh, I finally feel like me again. And then when Mercury's moving direct, it's like, fuck my life. Make it go retrograde again. So yes, you're the exception. And I apologize because sometimes I remember to put that in my posts and other times I don't. And when I do put it in, people go, oh, thank God, I feel normal. But yes, you are absolutely right. So this is about you really enjoying this time. And for everybody else that needs to put the brakes on and not take action, for you, it's like go after what you want, because the energy's right for you. And because you've got so many planets in water, in Scorpio and Pisces, your intuition will be through the roof. So it's really about you following that guidance and definitely going after what you want.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thank you. Yes, hi, Narissa. You can unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm the opposite of Claire. I've got a lot of fire. I've got a fire. Sag Sun, Leo rising, and an Aries moon. And currently they're all in that kind of 10th house area with it. The Chiron, the North Node. So I've started like, it's like an onion, isn't it? I knew about Chiron, wounded healer. I've gone off and done counselling and therapy, and that's kind of the area of work I've gone into. But I've always had that feeling I didn't get an education when I left school. So I wasn't enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't all of those things. Who would listen to me? I've been peeling it back and then discovering it was in my 10th house. So feeling like I'm supposed to heal the wound. I've actually got to walk my talk in the career field. So yesterday I did a vision board with 8 ladies, a vision board, new moon, and talked about astrology to a bunch of people who are kind of really newcomers and haven't worked with moon energy before. So it's scary, but yeah, Chiron is a gift. I mean, I'm going to be 50 this year, so I just feel kind of really privileged to have kind of discovered it. Feels like I should have done this all before, but I've been working towards it, and then to have that bigger knowledge. So can you recommend any books on Chiron? Because I'm like, that's like my full-on thing at the minute.
I can't say I've read any books on Chiron that I can recall. It's more about me learning through it, through doing charts, but it's more about that anecdotal feedback, because I think I learned about this so long ago. It's not till you start working with people and putting all these theories into practice that sort of formed most of my knowledge. And there's not a lot of knowledge about Chiron out there. It's getting better. But there's not a huge amount out there. But all I can say is keep doing what you're doing now that you know what the wound is, and you're working with it, and you understand that, you know what, the more you go after what you want, and if there's courses you want to do, if there's education that you want to pursue, definitely go and do it, because that's really important for you to step into whatever that role is that you feel confident. Because Saturn energy is about, having that expertise and feeling like you've got that competency. So whether you have to go and study to do it, absolutely go and do it, because it's important that you do feel really, really confident. But because it's 10th house, this is specifically with your career. So what is it that you aspire to in your career, and do whatever you need to do to get there. And it's about developing that self-sufficiency, because Capricorn energy is about being self-sufficient as well. But it sounds like that's what you're doing, so good on you. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a little bit self-sufficiency. I hadn't looked into that kind of thing, but that's a little bit at the minute. I keep on thinking, I'm doing this all by myself, doing it all by, and it's kind of like, oh well, I've always had to, but it felt good. It's not a kind of like out of necessity, it's out of actually I'm doing it all by myself because I can.
Because you can, exactly. And it's standing in that and going, I don't need other people. I love other people and it's great to have them around me, but I don't need other people for me to go and pursue what I want to go and pursue.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That helped a little bit. And so learning Chiron, doing what I'm doing at the minute, which is like going, everybody, where's your Chiron? Let me look at it. That's the way to kind of build your knowledge and your understanding as
Yeah,
well.
but to be honest, I wouldn't. You've got an awareness of what it is. You
Mhm.
don't need to keep digging and digging and digging and digging, because the more we dig, it's like the more we're looking into the problem. But you
Yeah,
know
no,
what
I'm
the problem
I'm
is.
more curious about the people around us now and sort of
Oh,
what.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're working with it. So it's about, we don't spend too long, navel gazing. It's about, okay, I know what it is. Let's just get on with it, particularly because it's in Aries. We need to get on with it. We need to take, assertive action. We put these strategies in place. And what's the strategy to get me to where I want to be? And we get on with it. We get on with it. From my perspective, astrology is brilliant because it gives us those insights, but we don't want to dwell and dwell and dwell and dwell on it, because that's not the purpose of it. It's about getting that awareness, and then we move on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with all this fire, my chart, I'm a doer.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's
Thank
brilliant.
you.
Thank you so much. And Claire, thank you for putting the comment in there. There's some resources. And maybe, Narissa, you can check out Pam Gregory, astrologer. She's written a few books, and I think she has touched on Chiron. And by the way, Chiron is a kind of relatively recent discovery, because I think, was it discovered like in 1977?
77 or sort of 79,
yeah,
late 70s.
So I mean, in terms of astrology, it's come into our awareness kind of fairly late in the game. Like, some astrologers now are incorporating the asteroids in the charts, Haumea, and all sorts of very, very recent discoveries, but they are recent, and so there won't be a massive body of work and literature on it, because some astrological websites, where you can get your free birth charts, they don't even incorporate Chiron in the birth chart. So it was a recent discovery for me as well, from my personal perspective, where my Chiron was. I never thought about it because it was never contemplated. So it's a new thing, and it's also a sign that these new things come into our awareness when we're ready to see them. And again, this is how the universe works. It will throw you something, it will send you a message when you're ready. And now we are ready to see all these wounds, and we are dealing with that, which is another wonderful thing, I think, my opinion.
Definitely.
Definitely. Anything else? Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I think we can wrap it up. It's been amazing. That could be, we could stay here a whole week talking about this, because it's such an amazingly fascinating and massive subject. But thank you so much for your time, Cosmic Queen. It's been amazing.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I always love doing these with you, Jordana. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for coming. So I will stop the recording, and I will see you at some point, maybe sometime, and have a wonderful solar eclipse, everybody.
And enjoy your camping. Yes. Thanks, Claire.
I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. Bye, everybody.